So let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking about doing what makes you feel truly alive. I'm Vinny. I grew up in Maryland and I currently live in New York. I work as the founding engineer at a small startup. We're a 8-person team and we work on EV charger software. I'm based in New York. Cool. This is Squidward. This is a GIF of him going through life, doing the same things over and over again. He wakes up, he's going to one thing, going to the next thing, and then he's constantly doing that in a loop. Who here can relate to Squidward? Where you wake up, you go to work, you go to school, and you come home, eat, go back to sleep, just to do the same thing over and over again. Yeah? And then sometimes we will have some experience, something that happens where we feel like SpongeBob, where in this episode, he's being chased by a biker gang, and he's like, I never felt so alive. I felt so much adrenaline. And it's in these moments where you kind of get filled with gratitude and presence of like, wow, I'm so grateful to be here and be alive today. So in this episode, where he's being chased by a biker gang, it's the episode called Livin' Like Larry. And Larry Lobster is one of the most profound minds of our generation. And he said, every day is about living life to the fullest. And that's kind of what I want to go into. So what I mean when I say feel alive, it's this state of bliss or vibrance where you're fully in the present moment. It's where you get filled with gratitude. Life feels like it has meaning. All the worries of your past, your future, and the anxieties and fears that constantly fill up your life disappear. That is when you feel like you're flowing with the universe. Now, I know this movie comes up a lot in these sessions, but who has seen Soul? Pixar's Soul. In that movie, the main character is obsessed with playing piano. He feels like he's born to play piano, and when he plays it, he locks in, all sense of time disappears, and he's fully immersed in the present moment. So, let me give you some examples of times where I felt alive in the past month. The first is when I went to a friend's wedding recently, and we stayed up dancing all night until 5 a.m., and then a small group of us, the last one standing, went out to go watch the sunrise over the ocean. And all of us were just there, present, enjoying it, and that was like such a strong bond that we have from that moment. Another is when I went to Italy recently, and I hiked to the top of a mountain, and I saw the most beautiful green meadows that I've ever seen. And I just sat there, and I stared at them for an hour, just appreciating the beauty of nature. I recently went golfing with a few friends in New York. I'll come back to this. Golf is a really important part of my life. And finally, I worked and shipped a feature at work, which helped close a big customer. And I was so locked in, there was pressure from all sides to get this done, but I fully went into it and I got it done. And I was lost all sense of time, and I was super grateful to be alive. Does anyone have an example of when they have recently felt this feeling of gratitude, just appreciating life for what it is?
Last night at the garden.
I like that. YJ is a big one for me.
Literally something as simple as just making the best meal and just sitting and enjoying it in great weather.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah.
I played pickleball for 6 hours a few days ago, and
Okay.
I just lost sense of all time.
Damn.
Yeah, it was
6
really
hours,
good.
that's crazy. That's awesome.
Playing bingo.
Yeah, same thing for me, but ping pong.
Ping pong. Okay. Sports seems to be a general trend. Yeah, Priya.
I cooked my first meal for my family last weekend. My parents got really emotional.
Whoa. What'd you cook?
It was a tofu and rice bowl, and it was
Wow.
really, really good.
Awesome. Well, cool. So we often go through life feeling like Squidward, and there are ways that we can enhance experiences that we're already having. The first is through diversity. That's just trying a lot of different things. Try a new sport, try a new hobby, try something that is different from your norm. The second is variation. That's where you try to change up things you're already familiar with. Let's say you love making lasagna. You make lasagna over and over again until you perfect it and get it right. Or if you're obsessed with reading or obsessed with some movie, watch the same movie and extract new insights each time you watch it. Third is intensity, and this is kind of the adrenaline one, where SpongeBob getting chased by a biker gang. Try to have more intense experiences. Examples are like going to a rave, going skydiving, things like that. Just be careful with this one, as you know, trying to get more and more intense can be kind of dangerous. So like, you know, skydive once, it's great. Skydive a second time, it kind of loses its, you know, value. But last one, or fourth one, depth. But depth is a super important one, where you're trying to go deeper into the things that you are already doing. For example, a lot of people will go to an art museum and they'll go watch, look around, look at the art, appreciate it, come back home, and then was like, oh, yeah, that was nice, I don't really get it. Or you can take a step back before you go to this art museum, look up one exhibit in the museum, research what's the significance of it, understand how this makes sense. Why are people so obsessed with Picasso's painting or whatever it is? And after having that understanding, when you go to the museum, the experience you're going to have is so much more profound than what most people will have when they go to a museum. And so that's what I mean, where you can try to increase the depth of the experiences that you have. And the last one is stimuli deprivation. I think it's important to call out. In today's world, we're definitely overstimulated. There's so many ways to distract ourselves and numb our minds. I'll be walking or just like going on the subway and I'll be scrolling on my phone and with no sense of idea or sense of like feeling of what I'm doing. And so something I've been trying to be more active about is I will, for example, go on a walk and I'll leave my phone and AirPods at home and I will just walk. And I'll go out in the city, I'll sit in a park, I'll talk to people, I'll just be present and be grateful for having that. And I think that's a really cool way to enhance experience in itself. So what does this get us to? Typically, when we have these temporary feelings of not feeling like Squidward, we look back at them and we think of them as just a fond memory. And that'll happen. Like, oh, that was a great time. I look back at it. Yeah, that was a solid time. Or what we can do is take these experiences, analyze them, understand what is it about them that is making us feel so alive, and incorporate that into our lives so that we can feel more alive in our everyday experiences. This will allow you to live a fuller life where you're active with your existence, learning, perceiving, growing, and engaging with others, making you feel more alive, not just in these temporary moments, but in every part of your life. So now I'm going to talk about my personal story and my personal flow. So I felt a lot like Squidward, going through the motions of life, doing the same things over and over again. And something that happened is a few friends of mine asked if I wanted to go golfing with them in New York. And for context, I used to play golf as a kid. I started playing when I was 8 years old. My dad took me for the first time. And it was one of those sports where people don't really respect it as a sport. They're like, damn, why are you play golf? It's not even a sport, bro. Like, do you even need a physical to play golf? Like, I got made fun of for it a lot. Now, funny enough, the same guys who made fun of me are the ones who are asking me to play. So, you know, joke's on them. So yeah, pretty much for me, golf has been something that I started getting back into and really appreciating. And so what some people don't realize is that golf is a very mental game. It requires a lot of strategy. The basic idea, to give you a quick summary of what golf is, and I'm really passionate about golf, so I can talk about it for hours. You pretty much have a ball. They try to hit into a hole in the fewest amount of strokes as possible, which is known as par. And if you do better than par, that's great. If you do more, that's not as great. And so there's a lot of strategy that comes into golf. You gotta pick the right club. How far are you gonna go? Should I hit it long? Should I hit it short? Should I hit it right to left? You gotta account for the slope of the green. If I hit it too far, it will roll over. So there's like so many things that go on. But the beauty of it is that no matter how much you strategize or how much you think about it, if you stand over the ball and there are other thoughts running through your mind, you're thinking about like, oh, what am I gonna eat for dinner today? Or, oh, what is that thing I have to do at work? Anytime you bring the outside world in, it messes up your game. No matter how much you strategize, it's all gone out the window. And so what was really cool for me is I actually found my golf to be an extremely meditative practice, where I was fully immersing myself, being present, playing for 4 hours and just losing all sense of time. And I only really appreciated it when I removed the outside world. Before I got to the course, I would do some breath work. I would, clear my mind. I would put my phone on Do Not Disturb. and I would fully immerse myself into the game and not think about anything else. And whenever I did this, it became an extremely meditative practice, and something that helps me come alive and get into what is known as flow. So, get into flow, right? And so what was really cool is like, wow, I am enjoying this so much. I'm getting into flow. This is such a cool experience. Why is this happening? And so I started reading more, and you guys have maybe heard of flow from the movie Soul and just like other parts of your life. And the basic idea is that when you're flow, you're getting the sense of aliveness. And so I was like, why is this happening? And that's when I discovered this graph of skill versus challenge. And so I found this framework to be extremely interesting, which is pretty much on the y-axis, you have skill. On the x-axis, you have challenge. And if you take anything in your life that is high skill, low challenge, you get bored. Those are things that you find boring. If you take something that's high challenge, low skill, you get anxious because you don't know how to do it, and you don't have the skills to necessarily do it. But when you find that right balance of high skill and high challenge, that is when things get kind of cool, and you really start immersing yourself into these experiences. So I wanted to analyze what was happening with me in golf. I wasn't hitting flow every single time, and so what I did was I took 5 scenarios of what happens when I go play golf. The first is when I play alone. That's just going to the course by myself. The second is when I play with new people who haven't played before, or people who have just entered the sport. Third is when I play with people who are way better than me, can play on a professional level. The fourth is when I play with people who are slightly better than me or at the same level as me. And the fifth is when I'm just practicing on the range. And the range is kind of like Topgolf, where you take the club, hit it into an open field, just practice and get better. And so what I did was I plotted these different scenarios onto this skill versus challenge graph. So for playing alone, decent skill required obviously to just play, and I intrinsically motivate myself. But the challenge is not there since I wasn't competing, and it was pretty easy. Second, when I play with new players, I found that to be, I had the skill for it, but the challenge wasn't there because no matter what I did, I would be better than them. It's one of those things where it takes a lot of time to get good, and your initial ramp up is always going to take a while. So I was getting kind of frustrated when I played with people who were relatively new. The third is when I play with people who are better than me. Way better than me. This is when I got kind of anxious. When I play with people who are way better, I would start overcompensating. I would stand over the ball, swing even harder than I needed to. And I started just feeling really anxious when I played, and I just wasn't getting into that flow. The fourth and the most flow I found was when I played with people who are slightly better than me or at the same level. Because there's some level of competition, we're all on the same pace, we're on the same wavelength. And I realized that every time I go play now, I'm gonna find people who kind of get into that category, because that's when I hit optimal flow. And so that's why it's up there on the right. And lastly, when I practice on the range, I put it in the left quadrant because I had the skill, but I was kind of mindlessly going about it, and I wasn't really have a routine or something I was doing, so I was getting kind of bored when I would go practice. And so I was like, I wonder if there's a way for me to change this. And so what I did was I started introducing a more harder practice regimen whenever I would go practice. I started doing this thing where I would take a club, and for each club I would hit 10 balls, and I would draw a ring around the target of which I was aiming for. I would count how many balls fell into that ring, and over time track the progress of how much closer I'm getting to the target. Now I kind of gamified this experience and made practice more challenging for myself. And after doing that, I started hitting this flow. I got so into this that I would wake up at 8 a.m. every single day and go to a golf simulator, which is pretty much where you hit a golf ball at a projector screen, and there's a bunch of sensors and cameras that track it, and it's actually very accurate. And so there was an app that would track my progress week over week, and I started doing this every morning before I went to work. And it was so cool because something that I used to find boring within the sport, I now started to hit flow. And doing this before work also was so much better because I was calm. I had a great morning where I went to swing, and now when I go to work, I was just feeling a lot better because I've cleared my mind throughout the day. So cool. That's the skill versus challenge framework. And I thought that was an extremely important framework for me to figure out things in my life. So now I want us to all do an exercise. I want you to take one area of your life and where you think you can find more flow. This could be something you do at work, something you do at school, it could be a hobby, it could be anything. And I want you to write down 4 to 5 things that you do every day. So everyone should have a piece of paper. I'll give you guys some paper. And just take like 2 minutes to write down these things. Now that you have 4 or 5 things, the next step, if you couldn't have guessed, is to plot them on the skill versus challenge graph. I should probably put a graphic up, but y-axis is skill, x-axis is challenge. Cool. Before we go to the next section, I would love to hear what area you guys picked and what are some things that you guys wrote. Any volunteers? Yeah.
I did running, and then I did 5 is 10 toes sprints, stretching, like run/walking on the track, and then running distance on the track, and then running distance on a non-track path.
Cool. Which items were in flow and which items weren't?
That's still being listed.
Oh, okay. You haven't plotted it yet?
I'm working on it.
Okay, cool. Remember, the middle section is flow, and the top section is boredom. The bottom section is anxious. Anybody else want to go? Yeah.
So I said cooking. I just kind of defined the different stages of cooking because
Okay.
that's how I thought of it. So like researching or creating a recipe, getting groceries, prepping the veggies or spices, the actual cooking, and then plating. And then the items that were in flow were researching and creating a recipe, and then the actual cooking.
Very cool. Sweet. So that's like the general idea of plotting it on the graph. The next thing, and this is the meat of, tofu of it, is think about ways that you can bring some of these items that are not in the flow area into flow. That could be increasing the skill or decreasing the challenge or increasing the challenge. So pretty much what can you do in order to get those items in there? And this is where I want you to really think deeply about how you can make that happen. The goal is to identify 1 or 2 actions that you can take that can get these items that are not in the flow area into that area. All right, come back. All right, what are some actions that people came up with? Talk about your area and talk about the item that you want to bring more into flow. Yeah.
So I did singing, and one of the things that I had in like more of the high challenge, low skill part was going to like high end performances and competitions and events. And to bring it more to flow, I said maybe I could like enter an intermediate, like beginner type like level competition, so it's like easier for it to flow.
Very cool. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I did running, and something that creates anxiety is like interval training. So I put like creating goals for that to just like kind of like have those milestones for myself.
How does interval training work?
Like you're not like just like running like 5 miles. You have to like sprint like 100 meters, 400 meters, and then take a rest and repeat.
Very cool. Yeah.
So I'm learning how to DJ, and there are a lot of.
What's your DJ name?
I don't know.
Oh, Jen, okay.
And there are a lot of like, controls on the board, so I'm trying to learn individually each of them so that I practice them and make simple music now.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to do.
So what's the area?
So
or
it's
what's the
anxious
background?
as now because I want to learn everything very quickly,
Okay.
and
Fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, so continuing with my cooking example, one of the things that wasn't in flow was getting groceries because I think like it can be like high on skills because you have to get like the right vegetables or whatever, but like low on challenge. So like a challenge that I can incorporate for myself is that instead of just going to like my regular Safeway or Trader Joe's or something, to incorporate more seasonal vegetables. So go to like a farmer's market and like go there for my groceries, or like even in Trader Joe's or Safeway.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. Do you have one?
Yeah, sure, I can share it. So I was like thinking about just communicating in general, like talking to my parents, for example, and like oftentimes what ends up happening is like in the evenings, it's like, oh, how's your day? Good. Like it's very like boring, so it's on the boredom side of things. and like I want to have more meaningful like conversations with my parents more often. So I was thinking about like making more activity-based things with them, like taking them out for like pickleball, just like to get us like talking about something else or at least like doing something else together.
Increase the challenge pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
make it harder but better.
Yeah.
Great.
So I chose reading and specifically reading the classical literature. And that's like, it's very physical but also really high challenge. And so to kind of get that academic flow, I said I would look more at like critical material or like go on like Wikipedia, like summaries if I need to, just to help me like better understand what I'm reading. And that way like I know what the context is a little better if I'm understanding the hard writing skills.
Very cool. Makes it very easy to get through daunting text. Do one more. Anyone over here? Vishwa?
Sure. I did cycling, and one of the things that I find generally anxiety inducing, I guess, on this graph would be like take long rides with lots of hills. I mean, the best thing I can do is just become more fit, so that I do less on the downside. So I mean, to that end, I should just do more like short hilly rides, which I think do fall in the like flow section. So yeah, I think going up hills when I'm not like totally burnt out physically is actually really peaceful in a weird way, yeah.
Very cool. So, before I go to the next thing, this is great. This is a really, really cool framework where I've personally found where you take any part of your life, you break it apart, you see what are the types of things you do, kind of in that like analyze piece, and then you figure out actions that you can take to incorporate it. But none of it matters if you actually don't do it. And so the next thing we're gonna do is take that action. You can pick one, you can write both, but open the reminders app on your phone. And I want you to write that action down and check in on it in the next 2 weeks. Okay, sweet. I highly recommend doing this reflection on various parts of your life. And also, the next time you guys feel this sort of gratitude, where you feel alive, where maybe you've been feeling excluded for a while and you randomly get this sense of being alive, shoot me an email. My email is vinit.shah@yj.org, and I will email all of you after the session too, as I'll get it from Purva. But that will make me super happy to know that you guys were actually listening to what I said and incorporated it. And if you do, we can be friends. And if not, see ya. But anyways, yeah, doing this, helping people find their flow, inspiring others, also makes me feel alive. And so definitely would really, it would make my day if you guys would send me an email when this happened. And with that, I'm going to summarize what we talked about today. When you feel alive from these experiences, it's really important to analyze and figure out how to incorporate that into your life. Most people, like I said, will think back of that moment as just a great time. But when you take it and actually make it part of your day-to-day, it's easier to feel more alive in your everyday experiences. And it does take hard work. You have to take action in order to do it. You have to sit down, you have to analyze, but it's so worth it in the end. And remember this skill versus challenge framework. It has actually been super helpful for me to analyze all parts of my life. I've dissected it with work, figured out what kinds of things help me get more into flow and would make my life more enjoyable. And obviously, I said this already, but intention and goal setting are extremely crucial. You can do all the analysis, you can do all the theoretical stuff, but unless you hold yourself accountable and actually make it happen, it's not gonna happen. So with that, I hope all of you can feel we're truly alive. And I'm gonna open it up for questions. Yep.
What led to like this whole journey for you, like figuring out, realizing that you wanted to feel more flow and then finding these frameworks and implementing all that?
Yeah, it was kind of, like I said at the beginning, where I just felt like I was doing some of the same things over and over again. Like just, like there would be some newness, it'd be fun for a while, and then I'd go back to being like Squidward, just going through the motions of life. And so, I think I started feeling this these feelings more and more often from golf, getting back into golf. And it was like, whoa, why is this so profound? Why is this so cool? And that's when I started analyzing more and figuring out like, oh, what is this? And then that's when I went down a spiral of flow. The guy who actually came up with the term flow state actually came up with this graph too. His name is Mihaly. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not gonna try. But he has a book called Flow, and I highly recommend reading it. It goes in levels deeper than I talked about today. Yeah?
I'm also trying to understand the root cause. Is it about breaking monotony? I don't know, perfecting things, enjoying what you're doing at the moment? Where is it coming from?
Which part? Just like
Getting into the flow.
getting into the flow.
Yeah. Like why get? Yeah.
Why get into the flow?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a more deeper question. I don't know. I think like there's always gonna be things that happen in life. Like you're gonna go through life. You're gonna have experiences. I think life will just feel more engaging, more fuller when you are doing things that bring you into flow and where you're taking direct control of your experience. And without that, life can feel dull, in my opinion, where you're just going through, the motions of life, and this is you taking things in your own hand. And that's kind of what I think is a super cool area to explore. Yeah.
My idea of like an answer to that question would be like, I feel like because when you get to flow, it's like you're doing hard stuff, but it's like you're doing it right because like you're good at it. Because that's that's where it is on the skill and challenge graph. So I think a part of it is just like feeling like like, oh, I'm doing something right now, like I'm achieving something. I think that is personally for me that's like super fulfilling. So.
Yeah. And that's great. And I think like honestly like the art museum example I gave earlier, most people, you can go to an art museum and it'll be like a very okay experience. But if you try to go deeper into experience, it'll be more profound. And so it does take action to make these things happen, but when you do, life becomes cooler, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of the motivation too is like when you're in that flow state and you're present, you like feel more in control. And like there's just so many things in your life that are like out of your control. So like when you can get into that like control state, it just like it amplifies things.
Yeah.
And like I feel like the last time like we were all like, as you get older, there's just so many more distractions. But like when we were all kids, like I feel like we were always fully present because like you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just like doing stupid things like playing tag in the parking lot, like while your parents are talking and stuff. So like it's kind of like that nostalgia factor. Like you want to go back to like when you're not thinking about like 1,000 things at once.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, it's great. Like as kids, when we went to go play in the playground, we didn't think about how to play. We just played,
Yeah.
right? Like that's now if I went to go play, it's like I don't really know what to do. Like let's come up with an idea together. And there's like a lot more thought that goes into it. But as kids, it was so natural to us. And whenever we can get into that feeling, it's always super profound and cool. Yeah.
For this past hour, were you in boredom, anxious, or blessed?
I was in flow. I actually really like talking about this stuff, and as soon as you start talking about golf, my brain just goes crazy. So I definitely felt like I was in flow there. Yeah. Kevin.
Yeah, I might have missed this, but what brought you back to golf?
What brought me back to golf? A lot of my friends, the same ones who made fun of me growing up, started getting into golf because it's a thing that people get into when they're older. I just got into it when I was 8. Thanks, Dad. And I'm super grateful for that. And yeah, that's just cool. I just started playing again with people, and they were getting excited about it. They were getting into it. I'm like, okay, golf is cool now. Like, let me go back into this and figure it out. Yeah.
Is your goal to find flow in every single thing you do, or to find pockets of flow like in routine? Because like is flow really flow if like you're always in it?
That's great. I don't know if it's possible to be in flow at all times. Ideally, I would love for that to be true because I would choose that over not that. But I don't know. I feel like there's some things that you have control over, some things that you don't. And when given the opportunity to do things, like whatever they may be, if there are things that I can do in order to make them more into flow, I would choose to opt for that. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanna, the second thing that you said is flow really flow if you're always in it?
Yeah.
Like, we can define flow. I mean, the guy who came up with it did define it for what it is. There's nothing in it that would require that there's nothing special about it. Like, it is in contrast to a different state, but there's nothing about that state that requires that it's transient,
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Cool. I have a question for people. If you had infinite money and it was impossible for you to fail, what would you do? Play golf. That's my answer. Yeah.
Probably traveling.
Travel. Okay. Okay. Why?
Well, I mean, different cultures, different experiences, can involve all of that into your own. Makes you a different person. Like seeing all the culture shocks in the world. So That's a big thing, especially if you like infinite money, you can go to nicer places, and do nicer things, so.
Okay. Manshi?
Just like feel free and like do all the experiences that you want to do
Okay.
without worrying about like any sort of things that can like hold you back, whether it's like materialistic or like anything.
Okay. Akshay?
I'm gonna say rock climbing, but I'm gonna go back to something you said. I don't think I want it to be impossible to fail. Like, I think part of what makes it in flow for me is the fact that I might fall, right? And that's somewhat adrenaline inducing.
Yeah. I think the impossible to fail thing comes from like, if you were to take on any pursuit, any challenge, any like, I'm gonna go build a startup or like whatever it may be, it's like, I remove everything else, it's impossible for you to fail. But that is what I choose to spend my time doing because I fully want to immerse myself in that. Mayla?
I would build, so I feel like education is very important. And a lot of times when people are growing up, you're kind of just like stuck in schools and classrooms and it's not personalized teaching. So I would probably build a school that is more personalized for kids' education styles and the way their brains work. So they got like catered teaching. And then I would build a chain of schools. Like, you know, you can go to like Trader Joe's and it's the same stuff wherever you go. So I would take that school and then I would put it in like every state or town so that parents can take their kids and travel to wherever they want, and their kid could still go in those schools without interrupting their education.
Yeah, we talked about this before, which is why I would ask her. But great, thank you all for attending. Hope you guys see you a lot.